What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me are my three good co-hosts, Fede Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hannah. And guys, here we are. We're already in the middle of October, and we're actually going to be speaking on a positive note because we are obviously going to be talking about Paraguay's two games in the World Cup qualifiers that ultimately saw a positive outlook, I would say, getting the win against Bolivia and, I guess losing against Argentina, but not in the way that everyone thought it would be. So, obviously we'll speak about that. Obviously the league is coming to a close. The Clausura, it looks like Libertad are going to run away with the title yet again. We'll talk about what's been going on there and, everything else that's been going on. But let's go straight to Fede first, who, all this talk about Sanabria, Espinosa, Ramon Sosa, but what's his deal with these scorpions that are going on? Because that's kind of been making the news lately about these like scorpion, not attacks, but like the frequency of it. I know it's not football related, but it seems to be what's been dominating the news so far over there in Paraguay, Fede.
You seem worried, Roberto. I know this is the time of the year where you're thinking most about Paraguay. You're looking at the weather. You're looking at what's going on because you're coming soon. So yeah, you got to look out for scorpions, man. I don't know if there's like something that you can put on your skin or something like watch out for them because
The
they're
scorpion
everywhere,
repellent,
apparently.
does that exist? Does that exist? Scorpion
I
repellent?
don't know. I'm starting to kind of look into these products because they're everywhere apparently. At least what we can see in the news here. Yeah, unfortunately there was a kid that died from a scorpion bite, which is really weird. This is something that you don't hear in other countries, right? But well, it has to do with the fact that we don't have the med for it. The kid didn't get the treatment that he should have had at the right time. So yeah, it came out in the news, and it is kind of a thing that well, I don't know. Ralph's been here a couple of times this year, but they usually come out in this time of the year when it's humid, when it's raining a lot, when the heat starts to come up also, and when we have high temperatures. So yeah, you gotta watch out for scorpions. You gotta kind of watch out for snakes, especially if you're in the countryside. If you're in the city like me, and if you keep your area clean, especially, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with scorpions, man. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I'd be more worried about football and everything that's going to happen in these next couple of weeks because the clausura is going to come down to its end pretty much. And now no stop from here till the end of the year. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Libertad, especially they're losing one of their stars after what happened with the national team. Tito Villaba got injured, and we're talking about one of the best players in that team. So I want to see what happens with them now. Obviously, they got a huge squad. They've been the best team all year round. But yeah, you want to see if Cerro can bounce back. Bolivia hasn't won in a while. They haven't scored in a whole bunch of games. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting weekend to see these teams back in action. And I obviously got to talk about the Roja. Oh my gosh, how good does it feel to win again, guys?
It feels great. It does feel great. And we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, like Fed had mentioned, Ralph, obviously the Clausura is coming to an end, not just for what we're going to see on the top of the league if Libertad can do it again, but also relegation races, qualification for other tournaments like the Libertadores and the Sudamericana. One team that you obviously follow, given your time in Paraguay, is Luqueño. They're a team that really need to pick up the points if they want another season in the first division in Paraguay.
Yeah, that's right. There's been games going on, even though we had the international break. And actually, Luque won last night, a big game against General Caballero, because those two teams are very close to the relegation kind of average. But I think with that win, maybe Luqueño will be safe because they've got a few teams between them and the drop. And it was Rodrigo Rojas who scored the goal, who, of course, has played for the national team and also won lots of championships in Paraguay. Now he's doing something at the other end. But yeah, there's a lot to look into, to look forward to. I think maybe Libertad will still be good enough for the title, but with all those other races happening, there's plenty going on between now and our next round of international games, because we've got those coming up soon again in November.
It certainly is going to be interesting how it goes throughout the next few weeks. And, obviously going into the national team, because we're going to start our discussion real quick. I'm going to go to Maria first, because obviously the big talking point is, of course, the win against Bolivia. Certainly we'll go into both games real quick. But for you, I would say, like, for Sanabria scoring yet again, I mean, this is actually an interesting stat. And Ralph, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but out of all the 3 goals that Sanabria has scored on the national team, it's a really poor record, unfortunately. 30 games, 3 goals. But he scored once in every qualifier. He did it in 2018, he did it in 2022, and he's doing it again in 2026. So I don't know if this is the start of a hot streak. Hopefully, I mean, we'd love that, but I mean, it feels as if though this is someone that really is now with this new manager with Garnero, hopefully, and especially after what we've seen in the last two games, especially all the talk that was talked about him. He was labeled in the Argentine press for allegedly spitting at Lionel Messi. Obviously, he denied it, and after seeing the different videos, it clearly wasn't that. So, kind of in a way, a clap back, I guess, for those that kind of criticized him for a long time, and yeah, rightly so for him to get the goal.
Yeah, it was. I think Sanabria is made this round of the qualifiers a talking point. He's been the talking point the entire time. With the altercation with Messi, and then his goal is, I guess he just decided, I'm gonna come back with a bang, and he did. That situation with Messi. There's a lot of, he did it, he didn't do it. Obviously, we're gonna defend him, and we're gonna say that he didn't do it. There's some evidence as well that show that he actually didn't do it towards him, and it's a normal spitting thing that guys do during, when you're working out or when you're playing in the field. And, I think Messi just took it out of proportion. He said, "Oh, I don't know this guy. I never heard of him." But now I think he's gonna definitely hear about him more often. So watch out, Messi. And I think his comeback is just one of those things that Paraguay actually needed. He said, "Okay, I'm gonna have this." We had this altercation with Messi this time around, but in this game, I'm gonna make sure that I can prove to my country that I'm not here to make trouble, but I'm here to win, and I'm here to stay in this team, which I think that he's proven. Just one goal, and that's it. I think that's all it took for us to fall in love with him again. So I'm really happy with his performance, and yeah, we'll see if he can do it again, this time around, or at least show a good, at least show his presence again in the field in the next few games.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting if he continues that, because of course, getting the goal is one thing, but having it be done consistently is another. And hopefully Paraguay can now learn from this. And then, of course, we'll obviously speak about the Bolivia game real quick, but let's go for the game that we were all kind of hopeful that this would have been more the big test for Paraguay. And that was, of course, against Argentina in Buenos Aires. It ended up ending in a win for the world champions, a goal from Otamendi early on in the third minute. It was a really nice goal off a corner kick, and him scoring really, with that volley past Coronel. And ultimately that's everything that we saw from Argentina. Yes, they did dominate, of course, in every aspect. 75% possession, 15 shots, they really had some chances here on out, but if it wasn't for some saves from Coronel, some saves from some posts as well, that hit the balls that hit the post, you didn't really see the best Paraguay. I want to go to Ralph on this one, because I think to really edge it out, I mean, to have it 1-0, I think was kind of the only positive, because I think Garnero really wanted to set this game up, and you even saw with the lineup that he made. It was a very kind of a defensive team, because you knew that with the way that Argentina have been playing, it was going to be very difficult to break them down. So it was always just be defensive and play on the counter. But you didn't see the best Paraguay. You didn't really see the best Paraguay. And yeah, maybe you had some positives from, the likes of Espinosa and maybe some others that came through. But, ultimately, I think the fact that it only ended 1-0, I think was something that was kind of the only positive. But, you really did think that Paraguay had the potential to do much more in this match, at least.
Yeah, we saw straight away. We saw Garnero put his mark on the team, right? Because one, he plays with a back five, so that was a big kind of switch, which is something he had done at times in Libertad, but I wouldn't say that was his normal formation. But he had done it at times in Copa Libertadores games, so we saw some of that effect here. He goes with that line of five, but then it's interesting. You said defensive, which I agree with that, with the line of five. But the midfield he chooses in Sanchez and Campuzano is actually, for me, more attacking than he could have gone, because I wouldn't have played Sanchez. I would have played Villasanti. In the end, I don't think it worked for him, because really Richard Sanchez did almost nothing, because he's not a player that plays well without the ball. He's a player that you want when you have the ball. And like you just said, 75% possession for Argentina. There's not much you can expect from him. And then I think what we also saw is kind of Almiron and Sosa were trying to be bright and take the game, but it was hard. It was really hard because they didn't have many chances. Ultimately, for me, the biggest frustration was conceding from the set piece early on, because that was the big problem Paraguay have had under Barros Queloto. I don't have the stats, but if you check, so many of the goals we conceded were from set pieces. And so I know Garnero wouldn't have time to fix that, but I think within the players themselves, I mean, you have to be able to start working that out, because that's really just your fundamentals and your basics. If we want to be able to have a chance in big games, you have to be able to defend corners. So that was for me the more frustrating thing, because then that throws the whole plan out the window, because you're 1-0 down. And like you said, yeah, I think we kind of survived. Messi came on, he hit the post, he maybe could have scored. So we managed to hold out, and for me, a 1-0 defeat on paper is not a bad result, right? I would have taken that from the start, I think.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, Ralph. I mean, I was really frustrated, not only in the Argentina match, but against Bolivia also. I mean, we weren't heading any balls in our box, in their box. I mean, we definitely have a problem in that sense of the game, and Garnero's gonna have to work on this, because we've seen that the last coaches have had trouble elaborating maybe plays for our players, or maybe, like you said, maybe the players are just not getting uh what they have to do, right? Nothing good came out of the match against Argentina, I believe. I didn't see a single player that really stood out more than Ramon Sosa, maybe, who always is showing that leadership. And what a player that I'm actually enjoying, really, no matter what opponent he has in front of him. Even though he's barely touching the ball, Ramon Sosa was the player that had the only opportunity in the game against Diego Martinez to actually score at the beginning of the second half. I mean, guys, when the first half was over and it was 1-0, I was thinking, hey, maybe if we have an opportunity, and we had that opportunity with Ramon Sosa. It was a quick play, one touch in the midfield, one touch from Miguel Almiron, and Ramon Sosa was right there in front of the goalkeeper. He had his opportunity. Something like that also happened against Bolivia in the first half, and he couldn't score either. That's something we got to work on, right? We need Almiron to score. We need Ramon Sosa to score if they're going to play that close to the goalkeeper. So yeah, nothing too important to take out of this game against Argentina, more than hey, they didn't have Di Maria, they didn't have Messi, and they were still shining. I mean, they were still playing 3, maybe 4 steps ahead of us. I mean, they were playing just such great football. I was actually really enjoying what they were doing, and I was really frustrated from what I was seeing from our team, because we weren't being able to defend. We weren't even have the ball in the midfield, and certain players didn't show up. Ivan Ramirez did not have a good game, I believe, playing in that right back. He was right away one of the first subs that Garnero did, and one of the changes he made. And Villasanti couldn't play this game because he wasn't 100%. They wanted him against Bolivia, so they tried out Richard Sanchez, and another game that Richard Sanchez just doesn't take advantage of. So the way I see it is it's gonna be really hard for Richard Sanchez to get another opportunity after what I saw from him. Yeah, there are players that obviously Garnero knows really well, and a lot of them were on this first list. I want to see if they pass that exam, and if they're going to be on the next list just a month away from now, or if Garnero is going to try out other players. I know that he wanted another midfield. I know he wanted Richard Ortiz. I know he wants Andres Cubas in that role as the defender midfielder, but he didn't have them for this first game against Argentina. So we saw a totally new midfield, Roberto, and I think that was the main problem. We didn't have Villasanti, one of our best midfielders, and clearly we couldn't have the ball, and that's why we only had one opportunity. So props to Argentina, best team in the world.
Yeah, rightly so, Maria. I think, going into that, it was always going to be difficult to beat Argentina. And, rightly so, was it one loss in their last 50 games? It's hard to do it for any team. So, like you had mentioned beforehand, obviously Paraguay still have to play Argentina again in Asuncion, but the way that they're playing, it's going to be difficult to even try. I mean, obviously I'm thinking way ahead, and there's still a lot that can happen for both teams within the next year. But just thinking ahead on that, it's like, it's going to be hard. Like just looking at it, yeah, games will always be close, and we did see that, of course, because if it was just 1-0, but I it's going to be so hard to break them down, and even in the next game that we do have to play them, and we have to see where Paraguay and Argentina are. I'd imagine Argentina we're going to probably be in a position to qualify already, but for Paraguay, if they're in a position where they need the points and they have to do it against Argentina, that's going to be very hard.
Yeah, thinking ahead, I think they're gonna have to still play a little more attacking. They haven't done so in the last few games. We've seen a very defensive still. I mean, obviously we're known for being defensive team, but when you need to score, you have to score and you have to attack and have more possession of the ball, and we just haven't seen that with in the last few games. With Argentina, we're able to hold them out, 1-0. Like we said, we haven't it's not such a bad come out, and then it's not a bad result. So with obviously we had to win with Bolivia. There was no way around it. So for the future, I think Garnero is just gonna have to continue testing out what works best for this team. I think it's still a little early for him. He's still looking at who works best where, what player, what combination works best, and I think we're seeing that as well in these last few games. We might see that again in the next few games, even though we have pretty good opponents. Colombia, Chile. They're gonna be a little bit tougher, I'd say, than the last few countries, because we've always had kind of history with them as well. But yeah, thinking ahead, I think it's still a little too early to tell as of right now in the table we're qualifying. Obviously, it's a little early to tell to have that, but thank goodness, we have a little bit more spots this time around that we can count on. But still, we can't take that out of our advantage, and we have to always go and strive for the best. So yeah, I'm a little positive. I'm not completely satisfied with the way that this time around this few games came out this time around, but I am happy with the results as of right now. I was expecting I think a 0-0 result with Argentina. Obviously it didn't happen, but 1-0, it's not the end of the world. We didn't get goleadas, so it wasn't too bad as well.
Yeah, and I think obviously going into the next game against Bolivia, there was a lot really going into that. And Fede, I'll go to you on this one because you were at the ground, you were there covering it. And I think you saw that really in this term of trying to bring that kind of hope to the team. There were tickets before even the game started. It wasn't that full. Yeah, ultimately it was like 30,000, something like that. So it wasn't in terms of a team that brought you any hope. But of course, you still had people that wanted to go because they thought it was Bolivia. It's the worst team out there. Ralph saying 20,000 tops. And yeah, I mean, it really did not look as full as it is for a typical big high stakes Paraguay game. But you did see a different Paraguay. You saw a different Paraguay that was ultimately very dominant. I think Bolivia didn't even have a shot on goal. That's how bigly dominant they were, Fede. But they were so anxious to score. And, you had everything. Like you said, Ramon Sosa missing a one-on-one, 2 offside goals from Almiron and from Avalos. And then ultimately it was Sanabria who came in really quickly, actually. I think he had just come in and then he scores like within seconds of his substitute appearance. So yeah, it was there. And then from here on out, you saw everything that we hoped that Paraguay would do. Yes, 1 goal is something that I think when you look at it in hindsight, yeah, it's a win, but you shouldn't be winning just 1-0 against Bolivia. You should be scoring way more, especially the way that they played. So I think there is still those levels of confidence that you don't get from this team. So it's kind of going to be difficult. But ultimately, I mean, you did see the players that everyone was asking for step up. You saw Alderete step up in that defensive center back position with Gomez, Kaku Romero, someone who we always wanted to see him play. He performed well. I think the standout player and someone that obviously is a Garnero not prodigy, but someone that he's always used was Matias Espinosa. You know, I think the left back in that position. You know, he got the assist for the Sanabria goal. He's someone that now we could kind of rely on after a lot of issues that we've had in fullback. But of course, we also did see some injuries. We saw, like you said, Tito Villalba get injured with the torn ACL. Same with Alberto Espinola, the right back. So that's another position with some issues as well. Ramon Sosa, you know, he pulled out through. I think his injury's not as bad as those two, but I mean, I think from what I saw, and you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts because you were there and tell me everything about it. I think you really saw Paraguay that was just so anxious to just win and to do something because they needed it. They really needed to win that one.
They were pretty much forced to win it. I mean, everybody was expecting that here. When you play against Bolivia, just because the way that Bolivia had played these first games, they didn't really look competitive. Their league has been stopped, so most of their players are not playing. So you're thinking, hey, we got to beat this team. There's no way they're going to come in here. They're going to defend only. They're pretty much not going to attack in the first half, and we're not going to be able to score on them. But that's actually what happened in the first half. We had a whole bunch of opportunities and we just couldn't score. So it was the frustration again, Roberto. After what you mentioned, before the game, I think they only sold about 10,000 tickets, and you could hear pretty much on every show, on every radio station, that they were giving out tickets. So they were pretty much handing them out to anybody that wanted to go to this match because it was played in Defensores del Chaco midweek. It wasn't so comfortable for everybody to go maybe to the stadium. A lot of people still had to work at that hour, 7:30, I think it was. So people are just getting out of the jobs. So it wasn't a big game. I mean, Paraguay hasn't given them much lately. The tickets were not that. They were pretty expensive, to be honest. And it wasn't the same atmosphere as we had in Ciudad del Este just a month before when we played against Peru. That was a good thing maybe for Maschelotto, right? To take the game out of Asuncion because that's what they wanted back then. They wanted another atmosphere. They wanted the fans to be chatting. And we had that in the first half, but we didn't have the goals. We didn't have the team responding, even though we had so many opportunities and very clear opportunities. Even a goal taken away from us because of an offside when Almiron was already celebrating with the fans. There was another one also in the second half, but I mean, just things weren't going our way, and you just couldn't believe what you were seeing in front of your eyes because you were seeing a team that had the ball, that was making the opportunities, but it was just not taking what they had right in front of them. So we needed a super sub, and thankfully Garnero made the right call. And this is the moment of the match I really was thinking about Ralph, because this is something that we talked about this whole time with Garnero. Is Garnero gonna press the button in the right moment? Is he gonna make the right subs? Is he gonna have the right strategy? And thankfully, he fixed it right on time. I mean, Tony came in and right, like you said, before 2 minutes, he was already scoring. So he had that effect on the game. He chose the right player. I mean, I like what I saw in the first half. I mean, to give the ball to Kaku, make him put the ball for the players that you know were stepping in the box. Adam Barreiro had an opportunity from a pass from Kaku. A lot of players had opportunities because of a good pass from Kaku Romero Gamarra, who I think had a very good game. But you can see that, he doesn't come back on the pitch. He doesn't defend that much when he doesn't have the ball. He gets tired maybe after 60, 70 minutes because he doesn't have that rhythm where he plays on the league that he plays. So, you're going to have to be smart about when to use him in what games, but you can see that he's an important player, and we don't have another one like Kaku. Nobody can hold the ball like him and put those passes that we saw in that first half. So I'm happy that he put him on right away, that he had the courage to say, I'm going to build my football around this guy. And what I saw in the second half, besides the goal from Tony Sanabria, which was obviously important, and it was so celebrated here in Paraguay because we hadn't scored in so long and we hadn't won in so long. But I saw an Almiron that took over, guys, in the second half. This is the Miguel Almiron. This is the Miguel Almiron I've been waiting for. The guy that asked for the ball, because once Kaku got out of the match, he was the guy that was running right in the midfield. He was the one that was asking for the ball, and he was taking it to the box, and he was creating opportunities. He was taking over. That's the Miguel Almiron that made it to Newcastle. That's the Miguel Almiron that I saw in Atlanta United, and that's the Miguel Almiron I had not seen in the Roja lately. So that was the big part of the night for me, to see one of the players that you're hoping that can be a star in this team really outshining the pitch. So besides just winning 1-0 and not making the best out of the opportunities that we had, we won, guys. So let's build from this, please.
We scored a goal. Not even we won. We scored a goal, which was the first step. Yeah, I think Fede, you touched on two really good points. So firstly, with Kaku, that's the first time Kaku has started a game for Paraguay since we played against Bolivia. So there is a feeling that he can always play in these games where the other team is not going to attack so much, as you pointed out. And I think this really was more of a Garnero formation compared to what we talked about in the Argentina match, because he had basically, it's like a 4-2-3-1, but really that 3-1, that's almost a 4-2-4, right? Because he knows he's going to be able to just keep attacking. So Kaku was really good, but then what he does is, he's like, you talked about the substitutions, he's brave enough to take him off he takes him off for Avalos, and then he brings on Sanabria. So that's also something we've seen sometimes at Libertad, where he says, I'm just going to put on two big strikers, two number 9s, and we're going to play like this because the other team, there's no other way to break them down. And that's actually really important in the goal, because if you remember, Avalos is the one who makes the run to the front post from Espinosa's cross. It passes him, and Sanabria turns it in. So having those two players in the box, those two big guys in the box, that I think kind of unruffled Bolivia and contributes to the goal. So definitely some full marks to Garnero for that. And then the other point you made about Almiron, this is the other, I think, the Kaku kind of problem, because for me, Kaku is the best. He's the most creative player, and he's the best player we have doing that role. But there does seem to be that when him and Almiron play together, they can't quite work out their roles to be as effective. And so when he went off, Almiron felt he had more freedom, I guess, and really takes over the game. So it's an interesting conundrum. I mean, I guess the next home game is the Colombia game, right? Because we're away in Chile and then Colombia.
Chile first, then Colombia, by the way.
Yeah.
Chile is the first game.
So I think it'll be really interesting to see. I'm pretty sure we are not going to see Kaku again away to Chile, but do we see him at home to Colombia or not? This is all, of course, injury permitting, because we've had so many injuries. And just to touch on the injuries quickly, I mean, to have 2 ACL injuries in the same game within a space of about 20 minutes, I think, it's very rare. I haven't seen that. It does maybe make you question the pitch, right? Because then you think, well, that's strange that it's happened in this same game on the same field and in the second half, because usually ACL injuries, we were reading some stats recently, it happens usually in the first half when players are not ready and are not fully kind of into rhythm. So that's slightly worrying, and so we might see again. Do we use defensores? Do we keep using it? Do we go to La Hoya? Is that got a better pitch? Because we know for Garnero that Ciudad del Este is out. He doesn't want it because the pitch is not good enough. But is even Defensores good enough? We'll have to see. I mean, that's another question. Just for people that are new to the show, the Defensores has been it's been a problem for years with the field, and they've changed it, and they've tried to change the grass, and they're always trying these renovations because they can never quite get it how they want it. And if that's starting to have an effect on players, that could be a problem. And injuries have been a huge problem, because even before coming into this game, we had so many players injured. For the next round of qualifiers, we should get Diego Gomez back, because he actually played last night again, or 2 nights ago now, for Inter Miami. He just wasn't quite ready for this. We should maybe get Andre Cuas back as well. So that's like 2 midfielders we're looking for. But we've obviously lost Espinola and Villalba now to long-term injuries. So it's kind of like this roundabout. We never seem to have everybody fit at one time.
It seems that even when we are supposed to be happy, especially with this win, Maria, we can't get a break. There's always something that has to hinder ourselves, be it injuries or whatever. There's always something that is going against us.
Well, I was actually going to go on a lighter note, because speaking of Defensores, I saw that it's the first time in about 10 years that we were able to win and keep a clean sheet in a World Cup qualifier. So maybe there's something going on there this time around that's giving us hope and a little bit of luck. So yeah, definitely not Ciudad del Este. I don't want to go there again. But yeah, I think that this game at home probably was, something that the people were not expecting. Even though it was Bolivia, you think more people would show up, but I guess people were kind of just a little bit like down, and especially losing against Argentina, and then the last time around there was some upsetting games, but I guess they heard our people, and they said we gotta give them a win, so we're happy.
I guess also to add, and I want Ralph's thoughts on this because, and of course everyone else's. When we'll start with Ralph here, though, I think the goalkeeper situation as well. I think we haven't talked about that for a bit. Obviously, we've used Carlos Coronel in the first 4 games. Again, it's so difficult when you really assess it because yes, he's been tested a few times, and the 2 goals that he's conceded were from a penalty and from a set piece from a corner. So you didn't see much of the one-on-ones, but when you did see some of that. And yeah, he didn't get the chances against Bolivia, obviously, because they didn't have any opportunities. But I guess against Argentina, you kind of did see a different one. And I think that's something that's kind of been the big debate here is which goalkeeper do we use? And honestly, I think he's the one, Ralph. I mean, I don't, again, we have to see if he continues. And right now, the Red Bull are not going to be playing in the playoffs. So that gives him a whole break for the whole month before, if he does I'm sure he is going to get called up for the Colombia and Chile games. But then you have players like Juan Espinola and of course, Santiago Rojas out there as well. I mean, but for my sake, I think he's the one that is going to be the undisputed number one for the rest of the process, unless he has some bad games here on out.
Yeah, I'm not 100% convinced because I think our real problem is at set pieces, which we're talking about. And in the Argentina game, for me, he wasn't as kind of confident. Well, not confident because he is very confident. He wasn't maybe as assured as he could have been in some of the high balls. For shot stopping, he's been great so far. I haven't really seen any issues, but I just think I don't know in terms of how he's communicating with the defense at set pieces. There were just a couple of nervy moments where I felt like he maybe like didn't handle the ball properly in the high ball. And so that's my only concern. That's why I'm not 100% convinced by him, because that's our biggest weakness at the moment as set pieces and making sure we have that right. But at this point, I definitely wouldn't want to change him, right? Because I don't think he's done anything wrong to say, oh, you would drop your goalkeeper. But I just don't feel like, oh, I feel this problem is solved. I mean,
you feel like you need to be convinced a bit more, is what you're saying. There needs to be something.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But I would definitely, I would have him as my goalkeeper against Colombia and Chile. I don't think he's done anything wrong, but I'm just saying, I'm not like, oh, this is it. I'm 100% convinced. So we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, and Fede, I mean, you go to you on this one because I think everyone was kind of like skeptical of him. Like, who is he? He comes from, obviously, he's never played in Paraguay. He's obviously playing in MLS. So there was that big kind of question mark, even from us here as well. We were thinking, who is this? He only became on the radar because obviously within the last minute, this was a Schelotto player, by the way. Schelotto had brought him through. So this is someone that Garnero doesn't really know. He doesn't know much about him. And I guess now he's got the chance to work with him now for the last week. And I guess he's going to have to trust him for now. It seems like it, at least.
Yeah, especially when you saw Espinola, the goalkeeper from Olympia, been playing lately after Gaston Olveira, who was the starting goalkeeper in Olympia, got injured. He's done really well. He's probably been one of the best goalkeepers in the national league lately. So you thought that, yeah, he could have his opportunity. Maybe it was Santiago Rojas also who has done the process. He's been there with the last coaches, always been called up, but just never got that starting role, right? I think he only had it in a couple of friendlies. And he suffered several goals, so then he never got that opportunity again. So a lot of people were thinking, hey, maybe with Garnero coming on, he might change. He might make a change there also, but he stick with Carlos Coronel. I think he did okay. I think he hasn't done anything extraordinary yet. Yeah, I love to see what Ralph was saying. Talk more, communicate more with the defense. Maybe that's just chemistry that you have to build on. I think that's just game by game, but I think the advantage that he has over the other goalkeeper is his formation. I mean, this guy was made in Europe, guys, more than in Brazil or in Paraguay. So he's got that formation, that European style. You can see that in the way that he treats his game, in the way that even his lifestyle. I mean, he's very professional in that sense. So I think that's kind of an advantage right now. And Garnero had no reason to change. So for now, I think for the next 2 games at least, I think Coronel will still be our goalkeeper, and we'll see next year because next year everything opens up. You got right. I think just by mid-year you got the Copa America, so then you might have a couple of new goalkeepers. You might have a goalkeeper that might be coming back from an injury, like Fernandez in Brazil, maybe getting more playing time there, and could have an opportunity. I think he's still in that age range to still come back to the national team. So I'm looking forward to what could happen in the goalkeeper position. But I'm happier with what happened in defense because I think Osmar Alderete was a big change back there. I mean, Balbuena, I did not like what I saw from him against Argentina. Alderete gives you a totally different game. With those high balls, he's always heading everything. Marcelo Moreno Martins couldn't do anything around him. He was really boxing him out all the time. So. And he's playing in Europe, guys. Let's not forget about that. I mean, Alderete played in Germany. He's now playing in Spain. So this is a guy I was actually really looking forward to getting his opportunity again because last time we saw him was a while ago against Uruguay, and he actually did really well and not playing in his position where he did play this time against Brazil. The other one is Matias Espinosa, who had the assist with Tony Sanabria for the goal. So I think we found 2 new defenders in that defense. When we play with 4, obviously in the back, because against Argentina we play with 5. But I think it was positive in that sense also, not just the goalkeeper position, which I think will stick with Coronel, but in defense we found 2 more players.
Yeah, I think we still have to see a lot more of him. He's a brand new kid. Not a lot of people have seen him. He was born in Brazil. He has a family from Paraguay, so that's how he's able to play for Paraguay, which is great. We need more players. Whoever we can find that can come to us that are good. And he's had a couple of good games, I'd say. He's kept he had a great save against Argentina towards the last minutes of the game. So I'm not gonna say I'm impressed with him yet because he still has a lot to prove, but I'm not crazy about it. I'm not too I'd say I'm okay with his performance as of right now. You know what I mean? He's had he plays in the MLS, so he has a good experience in that sense. He's kept only a few clean sheets so far in the MLS as of right now. But he's a young player, which is what we need. We need young kids to come into our teams because we gotta start building them. So yeah, I think it's a good option for now. I'm not too familiar with the other keepers right now, but like I said, we gotta keep seeing who he is and how he's been playing. So far so good.
Forgive me for not saying this. I did say that the Red Bulls are not in contention for the playoffs. They technically are at the moment. They still have one more game actually, so they could technically be in the playoffs, which for him would also kind of help because it allows him to play more matches and at least gain more experience, especially in big profile games. So we have to wait and see. Obviously, with him and everyone else that's playing in there, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. You still got some players from Houston and Paraguay, and then Vancouver, obviously with Cuba. So you got some players out there. And we'll keep an eye on that. What's going on in MLS with the playoffs in the next few weeks? But I guess to close it out, guys, what? And I'll go to Maria first on this one. I guess from what you saw from these first 2 games, and even before that with the Peru and the Venezuela game, I guess what do you feel like? And thankfully, we could speak on a high note because obviously Paraguay right now. They're in position to qualify to the playoff. They're in the first 7 at the moment. Of course, it's still tight. They got teams up there that are getting points like Venezuela, like Uruguay as well, getting that win against Brazil. So, it's very much open for everyone. with a few exceptions, obviously. But I guess, what do you want to see from this Paraguay side? Because for me, obviously, goals aside, we do want to see a team that can indeed compete. And Chile and Colombia are very tough, even if Chile are not doing so well with their type of players. Playing over there in Santiago is going to be very difficult. And then, of course, Colombia with their quality, even if it's not convincing. Like, we haven't seen the best Colombia either, but they're snatching points and getting results. But yeah, I'd like to hear what you feel as if the Paraguay need to improve on to get what will be, of course, two important matches in terms of how they're going to really assess this entire process to qualify.
Okay. I don't know what's going on my computer. Yeah, I think the one thing I like to see better for our team is communication in the field. You know, we need to be a little bit more alert. You know, we did like Fede said, we did have some good passes, you know, in the midfield in the last Bolivia game. So that communication shows, and then that improvement shows there. You know, like you said, obviously, aside from goals, but that also creates goals. So in that sense, yeah, I would like to see more of that. And I would like to see more you know, more of star players come out. You know, we had Almiron, like you guys said, Almiron came out and played a lot better in the last game. Sanabria came out and did great in the last two games. You know, want to see those stars players actually shine in the field. You know, we want to see more of Gaku and what he's capable of, and maybe this goalkeeper as well could do some great saves. You know, want to see the players actually show what they're there for, and show the national team, and show the country that, you know, we're here, and, you know, we're not gonna go anywhere. We want to fight for this time around, because 7 spots, you know, there's no excuses not to qualify. So we still have a lot to go. I think the next two opponents are gonna be obviously tough. Even though, like you guys said, Chile has been going through a little bit of a rough time, but I think we're capable of doing so. Of winning and beating those two teams, Chile and Colombia. We'll see what's in store for them. Like I said earlier, Garnero still has to figure out his team, and still is playing, you know, Tetris with the players. So I think he's doing a good job so far. I am satisfied with his work right now, with Garnero's work. So yeah, I think it's our future is looking a little bit shinier and a little bit better this time around.
I mean, yeah, the good thing is we're somehow in the playoff spot. I don't really know. In a way, I don't know how we got there, but that's the extra place, I guess. And Ecuador maybe, well, even Ecuador ahead of us, even though they had the points deduction. So in that respect, maybe I don't feel as bad about dropping the points to Peru. I definitely feel we've done okay in the away games, even though we lost to Venezuela. We've seen now this Venezuela team get a point in Brazil, and we saw them beat Chile. So I don't think I feel so bad about losing away to them. It's really the home games. So that makes us think, well, we've got the home game coming up against Colombia after the Chile one, which is away. But that home game against Colombia is really key to win. I think last time, if I'm right, we either drew 1-1 or we drew 0-0.
1-1 draw. 1-1 draw, was it?
1-1. Sanabria scored, actually, I think. So there you go. Maybe Sanabria will do it for us again. And against Chile, even though it's an away game, this is the one away game I think we can target where we have a good chance to win, because they are playing so badly at the moment. They're in really disarray. They're kind of where we were last time with Berizzo, I think, where they're like, should we get rid of Berizzo? Should we stick with him? So when we last played Chile, we managed to draw 0-0 the first half, and then we gave it away in the second half, the Santiago game. If you guys remember, we lost 2-0. But we gave that away. And Berizzo gave that away, in my opinion, because of the way he didn't react in the second half. So hopefully Garnero, as we saw, he got it right against Bolivia, can do something similar and make the right changes in the Chile game away. And if we snatch a win there, then we're really, then we're really recuperating those points we dropped. Because I keep saying we dropped those points at home to Peru, that could really cost us at the end. It's all about winning your home games, except for Argentina and Brazil, which you can kind of like give off because no one's going to win those. So yeah, let's see what we can do. It's just such a big moment coming up, these two games, I think.
Yeah, these two games are very important because it's the way you round up the year also, right? And then you have a whole bunch of months, you have a whole bunch of time to work out the team a lot more, especially for this new coach. I think the reset button was pushed at the right time, guys. Like I was saying on the last episode, and I kind of felt that way, especially when things went into the right place at the right time in those minutes against Bolivia, in those last minutes against Bolivia, and we were able to win and able to score a goal. You got to build from that confidence. So what I'm seeing, or what I hope to see against Chile, is that a team that's more confident with the ball, a team that wants to play with the ball, and a team that's going to attack Chile. We're not going to respect Chile because Chile's not doing really well, just like all of you guys were saying. So you're expecting Paraguay to go with that same attitude, try to carry what they bring in from Bolivia, and snatch 3 points from an away team, from an away game. If you can do that, then you're going to come with a totally different attitude to play against Colombia, and hopefully you can round up the year with 2 great victories. If not, you're going to obviously have to win against Colombia because these are 2 direct rivals right now. I mean, Chile's right there with us, Colombia's right there with us, so you can't give them the opportunity to step up. You can't give them the opportunity to really play far away from us in the point of view that how many points that they have right now. So I'm saying that we got to play it out as 2 finals, even though we're really far away from the last game. Still, you got to play these 2 matches as they are just vital, and you need these 6 points. So I'm looking forward to seeing a team that's still hungry and wants a lot more goals, Roberto. After scoring, I want a lot more goals. I want more victories. We got to get accustomed to this situation again.
Well, what's the old saying? Once you score 1, then more will fall in. I think that's always been the kind of the old saying goes. So hopefully, this isn't just a flash in the pan. Like, we obviously will see a Paraguay team that will be more competitive, will score, and it's definitely needed, especially against these 2 games against Colombia and then against Chile and then Colombia. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, it's hard to believe that in this time, next month we'll get back to it. It's the final one of the year, so we'll definitely be speaking about it. See who's going to get called up, see who's going to miss out, any new names as well. We'll obviously speak about it here on Guarani Vision, as we always do. For myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, Maria Britos, and Ralph Hannah, thank you so much for listening in. See you soon.